Dust clung to the parched earth of Willow Creek like a memory that wouldn't wash away. It hadn't rained in months, and the dry heat turned every breath into an effort. Folks passed each other with nods and tired eyes, weighed down not only by the sun but by the quiet knowledge of what had happened to the old Granger homestead. No one spoke about the girl. They said she ran off headstrong and wild. Said she couldn't be tamed and brought shame on the Granger name by refusing Curtis Rowe, the wealthiest man west of the valley. But some whispered other things, darker things. Wade Thatcher had no mind for gossip. A former Union scout turned rancher, he rode into town only when his supplies ran low or his whiskey ran out. That July day, it was both. His horse, Jasper, had lost a shoe, and Wade found himself waiting by the smithy longer than he liked. That's when he heard it, a soft, strange cry. Not a cry of pain, but the kind of muffled sound a man only recognizes if he's heard someone trying to scream through a gag. He froze, his eyes narrowing toward the direction of the old Granger property just on the edge of town. No one had lived there in months. Chapter 2. The Girl in the Dark. Eleanor Granger hadn't seen daylight in 31 days. Her once proud frame had withered, but not her will. Curtis Rowe had come to court her in spring, and when she told him she'd never be his smile had faltered. He owned half the town. He didn't take no kindly. Her father, desperate to stay in Curtis's good graces, had turned on her. That night, they dragged her to the root cellar, chained the latch, and left her with a jug of water and a promise of return when she'd change her mind. But she never would. Every morning, Eleanor whispered prayers through the floorboards. Every night, she swore she'd live to tell someone what they'd done. She didn't expect anyone to answer. Chapter 3. The Cowboy's Knock. Wade Thatcher didn't go looking for trouble anymore. Trouble had a way of finding him when he was younger, during the war, riding with outlaws in Missouri, and again when he tried to settle down and lost his first love to pneumonia. But that sound, that muffled cry, wouldn't leave him alone. That night, instead of riding home, he crept through the weeds of the Granger property. The house was still, windows broken, front porch sagging. But he saw it, scuff marks near the side of the root cellar and newer padlocks gleaming against the moonlight. Someone was still using it. Wade approached, drawing his Colt just in case. The padlock was thick, but the wood surrounding it had grown weak. He kicked once. Nothing. He kicked again, harder. A crack split through the air, and the door flew open. Coughing and blinking against the lantern light, Eleanor looked up, weak but alive. "My name's Wade Thatcher," he said softly, crouching. "I ain't gonna hurt you." She rasped, her voice barely there. "Please, help me." Chapter 4. The Ride Through Fire. He carried her in his arms to Jasper, wrapped her in his duster, and rode hard through the night to his ranch on the ridge. Eleanor barely spoke, but she clung to him like the last anchor to the world. Wade fed her broth, gave her water in small sips, and let her rest in the guest room his late fiancé once occupied. 3 days passed before she had the strength to tell her story. He listened, his jaw clenched, his heart thudding in anger. When she was done, he asked just one question. "Do you want justice or revenge?" She met his gaze, fire in her hollow eyes. "I want to be free, whatever that takes." Chapter 5. Blood and Thunder. Word spread quick in a small town. By the time Wade rode into Willow Creek with Eleanor by his side, whispers turned to stays, and stares to murmurs of fear. Curtis Rowe stood at the saloon's veranda, flanked by 2 of his men, a grin carved like a scar across his face. "You've got some nerve, Thatcher," he called, "harboring a thief and a liar." "She ain't the one who locked the girl underground," Wade growled. Curtis stepped forward, all arrogance and entitlement. "I'll give you till sundown to send her back where she belongs." "I reckon she belongs anywhere but with the likes of you." Eleanor's hand found Wade's. She shook, but she didn't back down. "I'd rather die free than live in your shadow." That night, fire lit the edges of town. One of Curtis's men tried to burn down Wade's barn. Another tried to scare Eleanor with threats at the general store. They failed. The next morning, Wade rode out with Eleanor to the sheriff's office in Dry Bend, 3 towns over. Sheriff Dobbs had a long memory and a grudge against Curtis Rowe. With Eleanor's testimony and Wade's reputation backing her, they got a warrant by dusk. Chapter 6. The Reckoning. Curtis didn't come quietly. A shootout ripped through Main Street 2 days later. Curtis and his hired guns faced off against Sheriff Dobbs, his deputies, and Wade. The townsfolk watched from behind barrels and windows, none lifting a finger to help Curtis. Wade stood his ground, bullets whizzing past his hat. He spotted Curtis behind the horse trough and called out, "You're done, Rowe. Give it up." A shot rang. Wade fired back. When the smoke cleared, Curtis lay bleeding, cursing Eleanor's name with his last breath. She watched from the boardwalk, spine straight, a single tear sliding down her cheek. "I'm not afraid anymore," she whispered. Chapter 7. A New Morning. Weeks passed. The town changed. Curtis Rowe's property was seized and split among the farmers he'd swindled. The Granger house stood empty, eventually torn down. Eleanor refused to step foot in it again. She stayed at Wade's ranch while the town tried to make amends. They offered apologies, baked goods, and whispers of regret. But forgiveness didn't come easy. Wade didn't push her. He worked beside her, teaching her how to tend horses, mend fences, shoot straight. They rode together each evening, sometimes in silence, sometimes sharing stories of pain and lost hope. One night, under the stars, she reached for his hand. "You didn't have to save me." He smiled. "No, but I wanted to. I used to believe no man would see me as anything but property or burden," she whispered. "But you see me." He kissed her then, not out of pity, not for rescue, but as an equal, a partner, a woman of steel beneath the scars. Chapter 8. The Garden They Planted. By spring, the cellar door had rotted and collapsed. Wildflowers grew in the soil above it. Eleanor planted sunflowers on that patch of earth, tall and golden, facing the sun. She and Wade built a new house, not far from the ranch. They didn't rush to marry, didn't need to. The bond between them had already been sealed with fire and truth. She laughed again. He healed quietly beside her. They spoke of children one day, maybe a small school on their land for the others like her, lost, hurt, forgotten. Redemption came not with one act, but with every morning they chose to love each other despite their wounds. And when travelers came through Willow Creek asking for stories of the past, the townsfolk pointed to Eleanor Thatcher and said, "She was once locked in a cellar, but she rose, like the sunflower she planted." And beside her, always, stood the cowboy who kicked the door in,